just just to say, I'm happy to record 100%. I have little ones in the house, and we have a no SM policy for the kids. So if they come in, then if you don't mind pausing.
And I don't mind. I mean, no, like this is part of, again, my concept of my Deeper with Deb broadcast is real life.
Yeah.
And real deep conversations. So while, I admire what Paul's doing so much.
Yeah.
There's this whole level that nobody could participate. You had to be super stellar great to ever be on TV, to ever get to express your own thoughts on video. There's this whole cameras and all this kind of stuff. And just to be like real adults meeting for the first time.
The thing I would say, yeah, I mean, I think I have only really just found Paul, and I think what he's doing is amazing. And I think there's absolutely a place for that. I think that there aren't enough Black men on TV. And I think that, the way in which he works, I love that he highlights stories. I also think, though, there is a real opportunity in connection and collaboration, in crowdsourcing content, in crowdsourcing opinion. And so, and it's not either or. And I would never, everything that he's doing for me is perfect. I love it. It's inspiring. And, it brings to, I took fastidiously, I took so many notes that day, and I was like, this Deb woman is amazing. I'd never even heard of him, and he's awesome, and she's brilliant. But I definitely, there's the great thing about, social media being a communication leveler. It means that everybody, can put out different types, and everyone can kind of create these different spaces. And as I was saying, is that when I was little, I used to get told off for asking questions, and so much so that and don't get me wrong, my parents are incredible. I love them, and they are amazing. But my questions weren't the kinds of questions like normal little kids ask. I was always really curious. I was always really in the search for kind of meaning and purpose and whys and whys and whys. And my poor parent, I'm the second of 4 children, and there's only so many questions you can ask in any day. But I recently heard the quote that what you used to get in trouble for when you were little is where your superpower lies. Mm-hmm. Often because that's where, those that love you saw that there was an excess or something, to an extreme in you, and definitely kind of wanted to keep you safe. Yes. And so, yeah, for that reason, I'm now really revisiting the concept of questions and questioning. I have a daily practice of asking myself world-class questions every day, and I know that it's completely changed my trajectory to do so. So yeah. I totally agree with you in terms of speaking to intelligent people, asking intelligent questions, thinking, and then taking action is the best thing ever.
It really is. And so I mean, it's sort of almost my life, except there was nobody in my whole community of origin for my first 17 years that I felt I could talk to. I stopped talking in first grade. I took a decision as a 6-year-old that like what people said didn't make sense to me. Like I had been reading since I was like 2, right? I'm being taught to read in first grade. I'm like, I've been reading for 4 years. What's going on here? The very first day we had this little table in the back. So we all go back there, and the teacher's like, who wants to read? And I read the book, and I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm like, I just sorted this book out. First one. And the teacher goes, and I mean, I'm quoting, but sort of, okay, well, Deb will never have to read again. Well, now we don't need Deb. And it was like, so what had happened was apparently I was supposed to read 1 sentence. And I read the whole book, but it was like spot run here. Like it was not, like it was a pretty stupid book as far as I was concerned, but you
were excited to show a skill, and they should have applauded that, not
because and it was her thing, because maybe she'd been trying to get my attention, but I'm reading a book, right? I'm like, so maybe there was this thing that, again, as kids, when we had that enthusiasm, and the adults had this like little thing, and I realize now, of course, how does she teach anyone else to read if all I do is sit around and read? Like, you can see it, but what that does to a kid, like that, it was just like I just stopped talking. I was like, okay, so something's working here, and I got books, so I'll just keep going to the books. And I really want to figure out here, now that the virus is like, we're changing everything, is to educate kids who are philosophical. This questioning, you know, the Sherlock concept is, I just go, oh, she's Sherlock, like, except I don't care about like dead people's murders. I want to know how to operate a human body that's alive. Like, this is how I've changed my life and have all this energy at 50 and way better than anything that's ever happened in my whole life. How do you learn to do that when you start asking all these questions? And
it's definitely, it's not just about, I don't know, for me, I think that the phrase "there's no such thing as a stupid question," I don't think is quite accurate. I do think there are stupid questions. I think there is something about questions that can be very lazy, questions that you should be able to fathom the answers yourself. And so, but it does come back to asking questions, but I think it's a bit deeper. It's also about allowing children to run with an idea, to run with a concept and see how far they run. And so there's loads of and it's funny that we're talking about this, because one of the hats that I wear in my multi-hyphenate life is I co-run a school food consultancy where we work to use food as a learning tool, as well as you know, to nourish the body as well as the mind. And so one of the things that I'm incredibly interested in, and have been for many years, is models of education and pedagogy. And our obsession here with sitting in a class, sitting around a table, sitting in front of a book, writing things down, it is one way of learning, and I'm not suggesting that you cannot learn that way, but certainly male children don't learn best that way. They are often very, very kinesthetic learners, and so they need to do things. They need to run up and down. They need to, and even little girls, everybody learns better by what they do, by how they practice. And so in addition to allowing them to think, is also, you know, it's things like not rescuing them, allowing them to fail, making safe space for failure so that they have the resilience to succeed. It's so that the first thing that they fail at isn't their driving lesson or you know, or something at university, and it completely devastates them because they've never failed before. It's also about making sure that they have the sense of self to separate failure and success from them as people. You failed at something, you are not a failure. And even that kind of language, I think, is really important.
It so is. And I mean, again, so I turned 50, well, I was a little bit earlier, that I realized that I am a kinesthetic learner. I've always had auditory learning problems. So that was, again, part of this thing going into the books. Okay, fine, because the teachers wouldn't be able to talk fast enough. They wouldn't be complex enough. So most learning goes 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
When you are an analytical person and you are a creative person, either or, but then put both together, this is exactly it. You want them, you want a 360.
Right.
So those of us who would be completely silent, like during a whole lecture, but then at the end, we'd be the ones that the professor would be like, oh, that's my best student, because we would ask that question that the professor's like, oh, and I forgot that whole tangent in the lecture. And that makes the professor like I've got it, like this student really got the entire concept of this hour that I've presented and went, but what about? That is not what we teach our young kids, but that's what they're doing all the time. They're trying to fill in all of these gaps. Right? They're taking what they see in their family, they're taking what they see on screens, and they're going, how does the universe work? So they're going to come up with these sort of crazy questions.
And that's the thing, the crazy questions, for me as someone who always questioned and as I said, got in trouble for it when I was little, I love the crazy questions. I hate the basic ones. I say to my children, do not tax my brain. I'm happy I'm happier to answer a question that I don't know the answer to, so we can go find that answer out together, than for you to ask me a question that you could figure out yourself if you just took a moment to go figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it is revolutionary, I think, to enable kids to think their own thoughts.
Absolutely.
Is we've built this education system that came from industrialization.
Of course.
We said that humans are widgets and we can manage them and factory farm them and such and so forth. And it's what's created, you know, the US of hypocrisy is dead last.
Yeah.
Dealing with the virus. There
Absolutely.
are so many countries, and I mean, we're literally probably going to collapse. The financial stress of America is, and I'm just sitting here like, if you want to listen to me, I can explain what's happening. I can start saying, look, there's these pockets of these kind of communities where entrepreneurs are getting together, and we are working to ensure each of us has a future in building a business. That we're bartering, we're getting on these kinds of calls, we are establishing these relationships. When the money starts to flow, we're going to all be like completely in the position to not be back stuck in a cubicle doing somebody else's bidding for no. We've created.
But that's why I think one thing that you said again, and I know you're recording, so you don't have to, but in any case, the recording is irrelevant at this stage. But yeah, what you said about being a soulpreneur, I think is so important. As I said in my message, I completely, not only do I agree, but I more than agree. I stand that to the end. I think it is, as I said, I am someone, yes, I believe in business, I believe in entrepreneurship, but what I believe more importantly is building a body of work that I can be proud of, that represents my journey, that represents my values, that represents a slice, and I'm taking a big slice because that's the kind of girl I am, of the vision of the world that I know will be better than the one we have now based on my work to manifest it. And so in that, you know, so when you were saying, oh, that you're a soulpreneur, I wholeheartedly, your soul is so, things that set your soul on fire is what makes your life last longer, and you know, doing other things instead of those things is you know, I definitely do believe that you do what you love, and you know, you minimize what you like and you reduce or eliminate what you hate. I think there are, for everything that I hate, there's someone out there that loves it. There's someone out there that will do it 10 times better than I ever would anyway. And it's robbing them of the opportunity to shine, you know, and to do their, you know, the thing that they're born to do. If we're doing what we have to do, then we're not doing what we're born to do. And as a result of that, the world is missing out.
Oh, it's so, you know, it's this concept again that the businesses need accountants and they need, and then people have to figure out how to do what businesses need. Well, if businesses are all about their customers, they should be creating work that thrills their customers. And that's because the employees are doing things that they enjoy doing. It's like it's all went completely lopsided backwards.
And it's so funny, I would even add to that businesses, when a business is started, you know, when I've had the opportunity to go back to basics on the business front, and because you know, we started baby business school with my sons, and you know, I said, what is a business? What is the purpose of a business? What is a business there for? And you know, they said loads of really excellent answers, but the thing I put in there as well, I said, number one is that the role of business is to serve the owner's vision. Like, I fully get the customer. There is no business without the customers, 100%. But I cannot. There are 101 businesses I could never run because they are not me. Exactly. They don't suit my values. They don't spark my purpose. That's not why I'm here. And so, and I said to them that no matter what, the money is never going to be as important as what is going on inside. That I've seen enough entrepreneurs be amazingly successful and miserable. And that's the last thing you want, because if you're a driven and competitive person, you will bleed, sweat and cry in order to climb that mountain. How upsetting will it be to then realize that you climbed the wrong mountain? So make sure that you're looking at the mountain that's yours.
And it's all the wrong mountain if it's just going to some GL account balance. Right. It's completely the life that we're leading, all of this life force, if it's you're being told what to do 100%, which as much as we want to talk about knowledge workers and business changing, and they have all the humans first, and it's still, you can't get into the recruiting process is biased. This process is biased. That process is biased. Everything is like that. There's this one perfect worker, and we all have to figure out how to become that one person.
Right.
It's horrific. It's because every human life is got experiences in the communities of origin, and that person is built in that real specific geolocational time frame of what needs to happen. You know, and
that's the the power of your story. And that was the other thing I was saying to my sons. And you know, they've said their initial business idea was to take what they had learned about business and turn it into a resource for other children. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's amazing, like absolutely go do it. But then when they started learning about Nigeria, and they were like, this is even more exciting, how is it so possibly so upsetting and so annoying in order to do this? So so that was, but I completely agree with you that I mean, I'm really grateful through this lockdown to have had the opportunity to talk to them about these things. These are things that they, you know what you either learn by accident or by error or by pain, mm-hmm. or you learn because someone takes the time to tell you and puts you on a better path to start with. And I do, you know, I'm incredibly privileged. They are my children, but they're not my children. You know, they came through me, but I'm here to guide them to their best futures and their best selves now. You know, I don't possess them. They don't belong to me. You know, I'm helping them find their way in the world. And so I'm really grateful to be able, because even there were loads of things that we talked about when we started Baby Business School, as we called it, that I you know, I'd never really thought about as a business owner, but is going into programs now that I'm developing for the women in business that I'm, you know, working with and what have you. So
it's fundamental when we start off as kids with this capacity, with the right kind of adult guidance to be exactly who we are. Everything becomes clear. Yeah. It was, again, you know, my journey has been trying this and trying that, and you get told, well, this is what's going to be. But no, it didn't have to be. I always wanted to be a philosopher. I always knew there was a think tank that was a foundation about changing the world through all of the things that went wrong for me. Because I had nothing but privilege, and I had nothing but clarity that nothing was wrong with me. Yet I kept playing small, and I kept playing silently most of all, right? When there was all this stuff locked in, and I know that that's for every human.
It is for every human. There's an intersectionality there though, because it's more for a woman, and then it will be added again as if you are not part of the ethnic majority of the country you're living in, but absolutely for women, because you will see the women who play big, you will see them be socially, you know, slapped down and punished for that attempt to play big. So
it's fascinating. It is really, so I shared a post yesterday that said I'm not going to be nice to white people anymore.
Yeah.
So it was off on Medium. I don't really know the person who wrote it, but I'm like, it can't happen. I'm not going to keep being anyway near nice. I haven't been for a while, but so randomly 3 white men who have not been having any comments to say are coming up, and they're going, well, the Bible says everyone. How can they not hold on to the fact?
I'm sorry, the Bible says what?
Like everybody.
No, it doesn't.
Show me the verse. Well, I mean, again, it really is these kind. It's
as a born again Bible believing Christian. Show me the verse.
Yeah. See, and so
there are so many, there's so much crap done in the name of the Bible.
it's
Just
horrific.
it's borderline comical, if not irritating. The Bible doesn't even use the word like, because it doesn't exist.
Is there's this whole concept though that what's happening is they want me to be nice. They're literally quite certain that they can boss me around. That somehow I didn't think through what it meant to not be nice to white people. And so one guy comes up and he's like, well, what about China, India? I said, we are talking about racism in the United States of hypocrisy. And we're not going to let you start going off and asking questions about other things. Dude, if you can't confront
you can keep your whataboutery elsewhere.
you could, and this guy just kept going and going and going. And I just kept coming back and saying, this is my post and I'm not gonna be nice. And then there's these veiled threats. Oh, you just keep right on speaking your mind, little woman, kind of. I'm like, and I shall do so, because I'm proving the point that y'all keep trying to disregard a serious flaw in the global situation, because we're all being harmed by this virus because humanity is racist, because we believe these mind viruses. The virus loves every single one of us. The virus will start infecting any human it gets near. It does not have any of these concepts of categorizations and nations and skin color. It doesn't. Being nice is fundamentally killing the species. This way of trying to say all of this passion, this clearly loving, this fierceness is clearly trying to get people to wake up. Oh, please be nice. Oh, and the Bible says everybody, and it's this like, their brains are like turned off. If they want to offer platitudes and they want to just say that this story that happened 20 years ago, I mean, that's the definition of Christianity. It's literally, that's when the calendar started. So it's been 20 years. Okay, if you like that story and you want to use it appropriately, but there has been eons of more humanity in Africa for much longer than that. And I believe that we want to come back to the fact when we were all on the same continent. That we come back and say, again, so there's tribes and there's variations, and some of us live in this kind of environment, which means we eat this kind of food, and some of us live here, and then some of us like to dance this way, and some of us like this kind of music. But really, fundamentally, what the problem is they can't hold the two concepts, that we are all identical and we're all completely, utterly different. Mm-hmm. Their brains are just not smart enough to understand the species. There's no difference. Yet each one does different things in our life.
Absolutely. I think that it's important. Like I said in my, I said it in my article on Saturdays. I do what's called a Saturday serving, and I'm been trying to be consistent in that. So, and I just, it's different topics. I wrote one about, I've written one on lots of different things, on weight loss, on business, on what have you. But this week I was talking about cultural education, and I get it. I honestly 100% with my whole heart understand the we are one human family conversation. I get it. Mm-hmm. But the fact is that we are not treated as one human family. We're not we may well believe in equality, but that's not what we're living. And the thing I keep going back to is I want to deal with how the real world is now, what's going on now, what reality is now. It's not for me to, I'm fully aware of my privilege living in the West. I'm fully aware of the most basic of things, running water, constant electricity, like literally inside toilets. That half of the world doesn't have an inside toilet. Imagine being a menstruating woman and not having an inside toilet and having to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and there's no lights. So I'm fully aware just how privileged we are. And yet, at the same time, how important it is to know that every life is precious, and because it's precious, and because all cultures have value, and because you know, that isn't how it's been treated thus far, why it's so important for me, and you know, and for those of us who hail from different parts of the world from where we currently live, to make sure that that connection isn't lost, to make sure it's not diluted, to make sure, you know, I could have shied away, you know, from teaching my children more about our culture, because I also didn't grow up in Nigeria. I also was born in the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of their cultural story, I'm definitely the weak link. My husband did grow up in Nigeria, but I said, no, I don't want to shy away from that. When we were young and we were growing up and learning about Nigeria, my parents were cautioned against teaching us our language because they were worried that we weren't going to be able to speak English properly. Because the science of multilingualism really hadn't, either it had caught up and they were unaware, or it hadn't caught up yet. But I've heard it in other cultures, but the thing is, it never, that never came up for you know, Western and Eastern European countries. The children of those, you know, Spanish kids spoke Spanish, Greek kids spoke Greek. So why were little Yoruba children not learning Yoruba? Because they were worried, and it was so important to them that their children not suffer the racism and the prejudice that they had suffered, that they wanted them to speak good English. And so I get the human family conversation. I'm just not quite buying it in full, because that's not how people are treated. And the thing is, I want people to be treated that way, but I don't want us to mesh and say we're one human family, so we're all the same. What I want is to say we all have value and we all have purpose. So I'd love to find out more and celebrate your culture, because it's so different from mine. And the bits that are similar, and the bits that are different. And oh, this is how we use cassava. This is how we use, you know, tomato stews. And you know, I want to learn. I don't want to diminish by, you know, that I don't see color crew and all of those awesome, amazing. I get it. I'm not, you know, I don't walk around going, I'm a black woman, please feel sorry for me. That's not my mantra. That's not my life. But I also recognize how privileged I am, how you know, how privileged I am living in the West, and how many things I don't have to deal with, even though I'm a woman of color.
This is, you know, precisely how I see it too, is until everybody has clean water, until we have made sure that all 7.8 billion people can have a right livelihood, we have no business going into all these platitudes. We have real work to do on planet Earth. And it is a real challenge. It is absolutely, anyone, you know, I'm really going to be pretty stern now about anybody who ever says they don't see color, because it's a freaking lie.
I mean, unless you're colorblind, I don't see how that is.
Well, no, but we don't have skin color blindness. Right, red and green, or color blindness is officially red and green. So, right. Okay, maybe they can't see me, which I think might actually be a really good thing. But our brains, all of this lovely.
That's the thing. It's impossible, because we think we see with our eyes, but we don't. We see with our mind, and our mind is the product of all the stories your grandma's told you, or the things your granddad said, or the things that have been passed down to you every time you walk past, you know, a black male person, and you know, you saw someone clutch their purse and you wondered why. All of that is in what you see now.
Even if you don't see it, and it is precisely that it's from the screens.
Right.
That even if the family of origin is 100% supportive, what we're showing on our screens,
what you see in society when you walk down the road, what the messaging in the media, and that's the problem. I you know, I have black friends argument, which I hear often. I don't care. It doesn't make any. It's irrelevant. You have black friends. Congratulations. And it's there are you. I have white friends. It doesn't mean that if I see two people walking down the street, I don't know what one or the other of them is. That's not how we are made.
It really isn't. And like that somehow, some way, these people want to believe that they've can get outside of the culture by knowing like one person, by just like having like this concept that now they know blackness.
But
because
you
they've
say
had
that,
lunch with somebody who's a colleague. When,
right?
you know, it's again the way that our worlds are constantly saying Africa. When we should be talking about countries, we should be saying, okay,
And
Nigeria,
even
Botswana.
in the, it's funny you say that, because one of the questions that came up for my kids is, if there are 30 million Hausa people, why are they called a tribe? And there are 1.3 million Welsh people, and that's called a country. And I said, that's an excellent question. And that is exactly the point. Why are they a tribe and why are they a country?
Yeah.
And so even, I mean, I'm going to Africa, hate that statement. But what we're discovering now is why do Spanish people speak, why do the people in Spain speak Spanish and the people in Italy speak Italian, but the people in Nigeria don't speak Nigerian? And again, these are really these excellent questions. And so in all of those, you mentioned that people feel that because by virtue of knowing or interacting with one person, they have access to the entire experience. But you say that, but on the flip side, and this is something I see a lot in my work, particularly when I'm speaking to like women, is they often do feel, women of color, people of color, they feel like they carry the weight of the race on their shoulders when they are the only black face in that white space. They feel that if they misbehave, that it will be harder for the next black person to get in. They feel that if they, are perceived as, and no matter what we say, if we're upset, we're aggressive. If the narratives are always there, those microaggressions never go away. But it's a weighty feeling, and in exactly the same way that it isn't fair, it is the experience. Black people certainly, I'm a flautist, so when I was at school, I learned to play the flute. I did all my grades, so I was one level. I could have gone on to become a professional flute teacher, and I used to play in the orchestra, and I was the only black girl in the orchestra for so many years. We'd go to all these, and every time they wanted to take a picture of the orchestra, they would always put me in the picture. They would always, but I would always only ever be I was the only black girl in choir, I was the only black girl in the orchestra, I was the only black. And the thing is that they would always say, oh no, it's fine, we've got Yinka. And I'm like, actually, it would be great.
I mean, all that.
No,
I'm so sorry.
No. But the other thing as well would be that when, when the next black girl came, I was so excited to see her, and I was like, and she was like, oh, I was much older. She was coming in, she was young, but she was like, oh, I was like, you have no idea how good it is to see you. Like, I'm like down for this all day. But they felt really, it's a heavy weight, and it changes everything when you feel that you are not just representing you, that you're representing an entire right, and all of the, and all of the bad experiences that those people have had, and all of those preconceptions and what have you. It's weighty, and it change. Nothing you say is light. Nothing that it removes levity. It removes just the normal human behavior.
And so there's a lot here I want to say, but I'm going to go straight into the heart of it. I have never felt that weight when I have been the only white face. That this is society based. That this is a person who has been to South Africa, not like I don't even know how to talk about it, because the questions people will ask me, I'm like, what do you mean scared? What are you talking, like what are you asking me these questions for? And again, in America, going to Harlem and being able, I lived in DC for a while. These are the places where nothing ever changed for me. And I want to be out on the screens talking about I see clearly how difficult it is for dark-skinned people to be in a sea of white. But when I have chosen to go anywhere, I have not experienced even the slightest bit of the same thing.
It's so funny you should say that. My mum is a cancer survivor, and to celebrate that, she went climbing up Mount Kilimanjaro. And she is around her 60th birthday as well. So yeah, my mom's amazing. I'll connect you guys on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But she said that one of the things that she noticed when she was, I think she went via Kenya, was on the Kenya side, or maybe it was Zim or Zam. Anyway, one of them is that you would have like specific villages, or you go and visit specific places where people live. And she said that she would always notice how they would flock to the white people, and how they would assume that she was just one of the random kind of people, locals or whatever. And to be honest, that's quite funny, because we are West African and we look very, very, we look different to ourselves, let alone to people on the East. But
yeah,
so it wasn't, they knew that she wasn't local, but their assumption, because she was Black, was still that, oh, you know, we can get way more, I don't know, money, attention, whatever it is, like, oh, we can charge them whatever we want for our, you know, whatever. I don't, obviously there's a language barrier, so, but she just said over and over again, like, we'd all come into these villages and the villagers would be like, oh, like they'd fawn and they'd flock to the white people. And then she, as one of the two Black people, the two Black ladies would just practically be ignored. And so it is so socially ingrained in all this, you know, white correctness, white privilege, whatever you want to call it, is so ingrained. It's a lot.
it's become that it's, again, so we're now sort of like basically like economically advantaged and economically disadvantaged. What the virus is going to be is, and because we don't, what do we call, I hate the first third world concepts, like that's ridiculous. But what, you know, because it's our countries, we got to throw Australia in, you know, some Western, like how do we describe those of us whose souls are in poverty? Because there are people who are in, you know, real financial
isn't
poverty.
That a conversation?
but those of us who are in this sort of digitally enabled global financial, you know, is our souls have nowhere to go. And there's this, you know, it's filtered through that, again, if I had perhaps taken actual tours, if I had been part of like the tourist culture, I am certain my experiences would have been different. I just showed up as a random person. And again, it's really funny, because the second I say I've been to South Africa, so I'll hear the missionary stories, or I'll hear the stories of people who went through like charity.
Safari. Yeah.
And I don't actually know anyone who's rich enough to be able to do that. So, because again, the whole safari concept in the US especially is for the real rich. Like you're gonna, you just don't hear of middle-class Americans believing that that's something in their life bucket. So I just went because my housemate was over there working, and she ended up actually having to be in a suite because she needed a fax machine. So I just went. And I just walked around by myself. I just learned this, did that. And again, I did not feel like, as a single person, a woman, and I've been fat my whole life, like morbidly obese fat, like redheaded, like stand out. I never felt targeted in the least bit. I would have conversations with people that were normal, that every time when people try to ask me these questions, I see this layer, this paradigm of how do I really talk about it? So I've been trying to create a movie to just demonstrate racial harmony, to just talk about real interesting things about what melanin is, and how, if we look at it scientifically, I mean, freckles are melanin. Melanin exists in every living creature, except for like insects, spiders, and such. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about giraffes, like we're cousins. The patterns on giraffes are formed by melanin, just like the freckles on a redhead. And so this whole concept that some people are melanated and others aren't is utterly false. It's a degree, and it comes from latitude. Mm. So I start looking at things, and I find out that San Francisco and Cape Town are almost identical. One's north and one's south from the equator, but the latitudes are very similar. And being like these cities, like on these major oceans with these mountain ranges, it's the climates are nearly identical. And to start going, look at this, people. We believe that there's these big differences, but the planet doesn't believe any of these human things that have come because of industrialization, and we categorize people and we do this and we do that. Because the importance of melanin and why I want to figure out how to create the Wellbeing Philosophy Institute and all this stuff, it's basically human energy. Melanin transduces the energy of the sun. So for humans in the UK with dark, lovely skin, there has to be an actual algorithm, a matrix. How do you supplement, not just vitamin D? I mean, we have the epidemiological studies about how crucial it is. In North America, basically only Florida, like very little of my continent is just naturally hospitable to the amount of sunlight that is like a basic condition of daily life. And then you turn in the dancing and the singing. That you can generate that bioelectricity manually, mechanically, just as much as it comes from the sun. So part of where we're all becoming sicker and sicker in chronic disease, in the cancers and all these kinds of things, humans are meant to not just get calories from ingesting food. We're supposed to also get bioelectricity from the sunlight, from movement, from being kinesthetic learners, to tie that back in, to not be unsocialized from our exuberance, from how this wave of electricity now, I'm so excited talking about this. I want to actually perform it on stage and show people that you can create your own energy. When we've built these lives where adults sit and focus on screens and type on computers, like it literally, I physically embodied that stress and that tension and that constriction. And when I'm moving, I can't. When I'm moving, you get the smile and the excitement. We can't take this from kids any longer. I mean, it is that simple. If we want these kids to be able to deal with a viral world that they're going to inherit, they got to be moving and joyful and go, okay, we've got the energy to fix all of this trauma. Because it's not a single one of the 7.8 Homo sapiens is living the same life that they did in February. March 2020 is like an extinction event level change. And I truly believe white fragility is going to collapse. So I'm like kind of cool with that. In all honesty, if they can't upgrade their minds to understand that racism is a mind virus, then bye-bye. Because you and I know kids don't come with that shit. They don't. And they get taught it even when the parents.
And it's so funny you just mentioned about children and what they don't come with, because I in my work and again I want to find out about like your work and kind of what you're focused on and stuff. I'm conscious of the time as well because I've got another call at 5, but I just in my work I've been really thinking, and I dream about this stuff, about women in business, about how that the story of success in business, in life, is built on the silence and the struggle and the sacrifice of women.
Yes.
And there isn't enough being done to support women who want to run a business, who want to kind of make their way in the world. And it's interesting because the expression that I kept getting and kind of thinking through was, and kind of what I've decided to call my program is Thrive Like a Girl. And I know that people, when I said it to a friend, she went, she did that face. And I said, I know you're recoiling from that, because Like a Girl is still, even though, Nike have done it and like loads of things have been done in order to reclaim it, Like a Girl is still an insult. I get it. I totally get it. But what I will say is this: go to a park, look at children playing, look at those girls. At no point do they think they can't run as fast as the boys. At no point do they think that they are not allowed to go on the swings with the boys. At no point are they conscious of hating their size or thinking they're ugly, or distracted by all the other things that society has put in their brains.
Yes.
Not once. They are there, they are free, they are grounded, they are inspired, they are resilient, they are leaders, and they're leaving a legacy. And I'm like, that's what we need to go back to. Being a woman is awesome, but actually when you were a girl, there was an aliveness in your soul that society has worked to try to kill. And so when you just said that children don't have any of that.
No, it doesn't come built in.
No. And the
so,
thing is, one thing I feel so strongly about being a parent is that I'll be damned if I'm going to let you program that crap into my children. I'm not having
exactly right. Is fierce with that. Is just. So here I am turning 50, losing 140 pounds.
Amazing.
And
I lost 100 pounds over the last. That's so amazing.
Look at
Congratulations.
like everyone, this is the first conversation we've ever had, and we'll be like best friends for the rest of our lives in some way, shape, or form. Because I call myself a 9-year-old, and I just keep playing. I just keep playing and meeting people and bounding up to people on the playground. Yeah. I mean, this is not how other adults are interacting. What we're doing here, that we'll get to the business, and it'll all just kind of like happen magically if we're playing. If we become best friends on a playground and go, I'm gonna bring Yinka and we're gonna do this together. Yeah. And this is it just has to happen that we regress. Like play like a girl is really, it just excites me because
it really does. It's you just don't have the hang-ups. You don't have the hang-ups, you don't have the pressure, you don't have the weight, you don't have the second guessing. You just are. And again I'm so, you're present. You just be. You're not fussed about any of the stuff that society has come along to tell you is important, because it really bloody isn't.
It really isn't. I mean, again, all we need to do is learn life-centric thinking. So this is the Wellbeing Philosophy Institute, just in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So I want to make clear thinking a necessary global public good. So this comes in, we got to come out at the adults right now making horrible decisions, worrying about corporations instead of keeping people alive. Like, there will be a viral crimes tribunal at some point. I mean, how many people ever get, but like, sort of so-called president over here needs to be put in jail. Some of his actions, I mean, he's committed attempted murder, addressing the nation with the whole Bleachgate situation.
I mean, there are no words.
No, there are no words. And so, you and I have to focus, we have to make our businesses, so we're in these positions of power to hold that accountable, to make sure that no more can this kind of stuff happen.
Absolutely.
And that's this thing that women, we were always taught, take care of everyone else and don't do anything for yourself. But
selfless, as if it's a badge of honor.
But then you're submitting to horror. We've allowed this, because again, all of these horrible men were raised by women.
Exactly. So
we can't step away from that. We can't.
The judgment you get from women, the shame, the guilt shame cycle, it's all women. But what I would say there is that society is more than 50% women. So it's the lack of awareness. It's not about gender. It's about being aware, and it's about understanding. It's exactly, one of the other things when I do my client avatar for my ideal client, one of the other things that comes up really strong is the whole mother-in-law conversation, this judgment that comes from this older woman. You're married to her perfect son, and she's feeding all of that crazy. So I think there's so much. I'm so grateful to you that you found me. I'm grateful that you put me in touch with Paul. He's awesome. I'm really, it really did, when you said how much you're giving to people and people can't even be bothered to write you a testimonial, I think it's disrespectful.
Well, I don't think it is. So I'm glad we came back to that, because I don't really think it is. I mean, when you put that post up, I really felt it, because the situation is that exchanging love is not something I'm ever going to charge for. And
Which I completely agree with.
this is
I absolutely
energy
agree
of
with that.
becoming friends, because so this is
But for example, the charge money, absolutely not. But so for example, I have really enjoyed this conversation, and so when I go back online, I just made a note just now. I'll write you a recommendation as someone who's like a thought leader. It doesn't cost me anything. It doesn't, and actually that it doesn't. It isn't a we get it confused that we always think that the appreciation or value or cost is linked to money. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It's not everybody that it's never money that is the problem. It is the ascribing of the value, and the point is that I value your time. I value that you shared thoughts with me, and so there is no reason for me to not to not demonstrate my recognition. I might forget, fine, not a problem. And that was what I was saying about how what did they think they were coming to, because for example, I've been doing free consultation, like 20-minute around business things and stuff. Every last one of them has written me a recommendation, because I've said, I'm doing this for free. I'd never want to charge for this. This is not about me. And this space, this is the last thing I will say about me. They've all asked me to find out more about the things I charge for. And I said, I will do that out of this time, because this time is about you. Yeah. And this is what I mean. People are so quick to shine on other people's watch. I said it in the post, I'm fabulous. There's no, you can hide me under a bushel if you like. I'm not this, there is no need.
I mean,
right. Seriously. So I am not under any illusion. I own it. And so, but the fact that I'm fabulous means that I can put my fabulous over here and let you shine. It doesn't make me less fabulous. It doesn't make me less sure of myself. And it's so funny, because the guys on that post were like, you should be proud of what you do. And I'm like, at no point did I say I was not proud of what I did. That's not what we're talking about.
What we're coming down into is, this women, we haven't learned how to operationalize certain aspects of this is the crux of here we go. So I'm 100% as a deep thinker, always been about the one-to-ones. Mm-hmm. And in order to unite the globe, mm-hmm. I got like 7.8 billion people here.
Right, that's a lot of one-to-one.
I've got to figure out how to, do more broadness. But to me, that always felt like this is this soulless systemic structure of corporate America. So I'm in that place that my questions, trust me, I have been so much repaid. Mm-hmm. When it comes to, they're doing things, but I don't know quite how to point like a new person to all the value, because the value is coming back to me directly. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of, it's this interesting thing that it's, again, I didn't, in comments, you can only explain things so much, there's not mm-hmm. a lot of room. And it's sort of, it's not that it's how do I get my little pat phrase? Okay, well, if you like this conversation, do XYZ and tell your friends. Like, I don't really ever do that. And I put the burden entirely on myself.
I get that, and I respect that. So I respect you so much for it, because I think it really is important that we take responsibility for our part in any situation. Yep. But at the same time, I am also a grown ass woman. And so you can absolutely accept your part in this conversation, but I must do the same. And I, as someone who is putting value out there in the world, who is hoping people will treat me well, who is hoping that people will, I will be a beneficiary of somebody's random act of kindness. I can't even ask for that if I'm not prepared to put that out there. Yeah. And so from my perspective, I get it. And I didn't think, as you were talking about it and thinking things through, as you said, if you're not asking, or if people are not there's things and kind of operational things that can be done. But I think it's more, I'm an empowered woman. No one's coming to empower me. It's too late. It's already happened. And to be honest, every woman is empowered, whether she realizes it or not. So the point is, and this is what I was saying, it's about what the space that I create and what I accept and agree to on my watch. On my watch, I'm not going to be yet another person who took an hour of your life that you will never get back and then all you got was a nice warm feeling and perhaps, you know, a video for you to laugh at later on or whatever. You know, there has to be, I need to be that change that I want to see in the world, because I absolutely would never give someone an hour of my time and expect and then, you know, expect that you know, if I said, oh, please write me a recommendation, you know, thought leadership, thinking, blah blah, whatever, that they would say no. These are things that I don't, you know, because I am a Christian, it isn't how I would describe it in terms of karma, but you absolutely reap what you sow. Absolutely. Yeah. And I sow good things. I sow good things. I sow good experiences. I sow fairness. I sow value. And that's what I reap. And so to me, all of the time that you're spending and all the value that you're giving, you absolutely will reap it. But the fact that they didn't demonstrate that and were not proactive in that, they will reap that too.
Well, and, you know, and again, it comes back to, I'm certain that the value's there.
Yeah. 100%.
And I'm certain that again, there's all these lovely evergreen conversations where we can take 5 minutes where we've talked about this thing and really share it forever and ever and ever. But that takes staff, right? I'm not going to sit here and, you know, I need some other people to help operationalize. And that is really the foundation of my trying to start playing silently.
What is your what's your strategy? What are you going to be doing going forward? How did you get involved with Paul, and what are you going to be doing going forward?
So yeah, you know, we got to watch the time.
Yeah, don't worry.
It's a big question to go into.
Yeah, I should have asked that 20 minutes ago.
Well, and you know, it's again, this is more important to me. The building of the friendships, because there is no rush. We've got this whole thing about like the 90-day earning cycle and all this blah, 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 and there's no rush. Yeah, so, you know, my question was really philosophical, like, because I don't want to waste people's time. It's like, is LinkedIn really the platform? Or am I going to actually follow Paul's footsteps and become some sort of TV host? In which case, you know, having all of this stuff on LinkedIn is kind of useless. So, I'm really in this, like, really, without Paul, I would have never thought about being a TV host.
Yeah, is he on TV, like in America? Is he on TV in America?
He's on TV in the UK.
Oh, okay. What's his show? I don't know it.
Celebs Go Dating. So he's a professional matchmaker, and he also does a lot of business. He's really famous, quite frankly. He's much more famous than you would know off of how accessible he is.
Oh, okay.
He's been on a program with Oprah. Not on her network. He's actually sat on the stage.
Yeah, no, I saw their picture together. I've clearly never watched Celebs Go Dating.
Well, and it's not actually my kind of TV either. Yeah. But the thing is there's probably this perception because he's really the family man. He is. So even though there's this whole thing, what this is matchmaking, he's trying to create African American families.
Yeah.
Thinking through the whole strategy of demonstrating to a community that's fractured, right? We got nothing but baby daddies over here.
Yeah.
Have started in that niche and being such a family man.
Yeah.
It's of tremendous value. And that's why his audience is so strategically incredible, because what you're finding is again, this is a loaded phrase in America, but the talented 10th, the people whose lives are together, the people who have given up the culture and are really saying it's on my back now to create a business so that I can be the change. And that takes this kind of structure, and it takes this kind of community, and it takes learning these kinds of things. So I think we're out of time pretty much.
But I'm so grateful to you. I've so enjoyed this conversation. I didn't know what to expect. It wasn't anything that I expected, but it was way better.
Well, it's way better for me too.
Way better.
Which is again about, he said yesterday, do you ask questions or not? I find this unstructured. There's so much humanity that we're not getting to express complexly as adults.
Yeah.
That I think I'm onto something with this whole series. So we'll be in touch, and this will continue in who knows what kinds of ways. You be very well. Kiss those kids. And I got on my schedule. I'm gonna try. I had something to do on Saturday morning, but I think I might quit it just so I could come. So
cool. Yeah. Well, make sure you book so that we can send you the links and everything. So awesome.
Let me get on that and make a final decision.
Perfect.
It was lovely meeting you.
I look forward to speaking to you again really soon. Take